Dinner wasn't always meat. Sometimes it was smarter than that. A carton of eggs, a chile, and 30 minutes. And Grandma put a full meal on the table. Here are 15 Mexican egg dishes for dinner from the 80s that nobody talks about anymore. Number 15. Torta de huevo en caldillo de jitomate. This is the egg dish that crossed over into dinner territory completely. Eggs were beaten into a thick, airy foam. The more you beat them, the lighter the torta, then poured into a pan so they puffed into a soft golden omelet round. Once cooked and sliced, the pieces went directly into a caldillo, a lightly seasoned tomato broth with onion, garlic, and serrano that had been simmered until it tasted clean and slightly sweet. The egg pieces absorbed the broth and turned tender, almost like a dumpling in soup, and the plate came out looking like a proper stew. This was the dinner Grandma made on budget weeks. It used almost nothing, but it presented like something that took effort, which was her whole approach to cooking. Number 14. Huevos al albañil. Bricklayers' eggs weren't named poetically. They were named after the people who ate them, workers who needed heat, salt, and something that would stay with them through the afternoon. The salsa was made on a comal, dried chilies toasted until just fragrant, then soaked and blended with garlic and tomatillo into something deeply smoky and aggressively spiced. Fried eggs went in last, kept whole, then bathed in that salsa, so the edges of the whites soaked up the heat and the yolks stayed intact until you broke them. It was a loud dinner, not subtle, and it was intentionally so, because albañils ate fast and needed to taste the meal before they got back to work. Number 13. Huevos con rajas en crema. For dinner, this dish got richer. Roasted poblano strips, charred directly on the burner, peeled and sliced, went into a pan with onion that had been cooked low and slow until it turned sweet and golden. Crema went in next and thickened into a sauce. Then eggs were cracked directly in, not scrambled, just nestled into the creamy chili base and cooked with the lid on so the whites set slowly while the yolk stayed soft. A little salt, a little queso fresco crumbled over the top, and it was done. The difference between the breakfast version and this one was time. The onion cooked longer, the crema reduced more, the whole thing came out more serious. This was a dinner that looked like it came from a restaurant. Number 12. Huevos con ejotes y papas, green beans and potatoes together in a dinner pan made a foundation that could carry eggs without disappearing. The potatoes went in first, cubed and fried until golden. Ejotes followed, blanched first so they stayed bright and tender, not gray and limp. Then a quick tomato and chili base went in to season everything, and eggs were scrambled over the top, not beaten separately, but cracked right in and stirred through the vegetables so they coated everything in loose golden ribbons. It sounds plain until you realize what it actually is. A vegetable-first dinner where the eggs make every bite feel substantial without meat ever entering the equation. Grandma made this on Fridays. Old habit, leftover tradition, and the green beans and potatoes always tasted better for it. Number 11. Revoltijo Oaxaqueño. This dish is as complex as it sounds and twice as good as you expect. Revoltijo was a Lenten specialty from Oaxaca, built around dried shrimp and quelites, wild greens like romeritos or verdolagas, bound together in a mole negro that was dark, bitter, smoky, and deeply spiced. Then eggs were beaten in or scrambled through the whole mixture, so they became the glue holding the greens, shrimp, and mole together. The result tasted like the mole wrapped around everything and refused to let go. It was a dinner for Fridays and holy days, when the rule was no meat, but the cooking still had to feel like an event. Grandma made it once a year, and every bite was a reminder that restraint in ingredients doesn't mean restraint in flavor. Number 10. Huevos con quelites. Wild greens were free if you knew where to find them. Quelites, purslane, lamb's quarters, or epazote were gathered, washed and wilted in a pan with onion, garlic, and a little serrano until they turned soft and fragrant. Then eggs were scrambled through the greens so the whole pan turned green-flecked and herbal, tasting like the earth in the best possible way. This was a dinner that came from the land outside the house, not the store, which is why it tasted like nowhere else. The eggs kept it grounded and protein-rich, while the quelites made the plate feel alive. In the 80s, people grew up eating this. Today, most people can't identify the greens, which is part of what made this dish start to disappear. Number 9. Torta de huevo con camarones. Seco's dried shrimp in Mexico aren't a garnish, they're an anchor. Chewy, intensely salty and packed with umami, they were soaked, rinsed, and then folded into beaten eggs before the whole mixture was poured into a pan to set into a thick, golden round. The shrimp distributed through the egg, so every bite had that briny punch, and the torta cooked firm enough to slice and serve in pieces on the plate. A chili tomato salsa went alongside, bright and acidic to cut through the richness of egg and shrimp. In coastal and central households, this was the Friday night dinner. Meatless by tradition, deeply satisfying by design. The dried shrimp did what meat normally did, gave the dish character that lasted past the first bite. Number 8. Huevos en mole negro. Not mole with eggs as a garnish. Eggs poached inside the mole, absorbing it, becoming part of it. Real mole negro, dried chilies, charred tomato and onion, toasted nuts and seeds, chocolate, and a long list of spices that took hours, was the kind of sauce Grandma made in big batches and used across multiple meals. When eggs went into the mole for dinner, it wasn't a leftover situation. It was an intentional transformation. The eggs came out stained dark, the yolks barely set, and when you broke them open, the orange ran into the black and the plate looked like something ceremonial. You ate it with rice and tortillas and said almost nothing because the mole did all the talking. Number 7. Huevos en chile ajo. Chile ajo is a sauce from Guerrero that not enough people know. Garlic forward, deeply fragrant, made from ancho and guajillo chiles that were blended with oregano and toasted cumin into something thick and rust red and powerfully aromatic. In the 80s, Grandma used it to cook egg dishes that felt like they had meat in them even when they didn't. Eggs were either poached inside the sauce or hard-boiled first, then dropped into the chilillo so they soaked up the garlic and chili through the white over low heat. The yolk turned saffron-colored at the edges. The sauce clung. Served over rice, it looked and tasted like something that required a recipe. It didn't. It required a good chile and patience. Number 6. Huevos con chipotles en adobo. One chipotle in adobo makes a whole pan taste like it cooked for hours. Grandma knew this, which is why the can of chipotles lasted for weeks, 1 or 2 chiles at a time, the rest sealed and refrigerated. The chipotle went into a pan with tomato and onion and fried down into a thick smoky paste. Then eggs were scrambled in so every bite carried that sweet, smoky, spicy depth. Served for dinner, this version was heartier than the breakfast approach. More sauce, more chile, sometimes a little shredded chicken from whatever was left in the pot. But on empty fridge nights, just the eggs and the chipotle was more than enough. The smoke did the work. Number 5. Huevos con calabachitas y elote summer dinner. A pan of zucchini and corn cooked until they turned soft and slightly sweet, with a little onion and serrano for edge. Then eggs went in, scrambled loosely through the vegetables so they held everything together without overpowering the freshness of the squash. The corn stayed tender with just a little bite left. The zucchini melted. The eggs turned golden from the yolks and the oil and the heat. This was a warm weather dinner that felt like the garden coming to the table, not the pantry. What made it special was the corn. Charred slightly in the pan before the other vegetables went in, so it carried a smoky note through the whole dish that you tasted but couldn't quite identify. Number 4. Taquitos de huevo con salsa de molcajete. The tortillas were hot off the comal, slightly charred at the edges. The eggs were scrambled simply, salt, onion, maybe a little tomato. Nothing too busy because the salsa was going to handle everything else. The molcajete salsa was the main event. Fire-roasted tomato, charred serrano, toasted garlic, ground to a chunky, smoky paste that smelled like the whole purpose of a meal. Eggs went into the tortilla, the salsa went on top, and dinner was done in 20 minutes. But the salsa made 20 minutes taste like 2 hours. That's the trick Grandma understood about simple egg dinners. The egg is the vehicle. And if you make the salsa right, the vehicle doesn't need to do anything special. Number 3. Huevos en salsa de chile pasilla, con frijoles. The pasilla chile is the dinner chili. Deeper, more complex, and more serious than a serrano. Grandma toasted it carefully on the comal, just until it puffed and smelled like dried fruit and smoke, then soaked it and blended it with tomato, garlic, and onion into a thick, dark, velvety sauce that she fried in oil until it unified. Eggs were cracked in and poached, so they came out surrounded by deep red-black sauce, with yolks still soft. Then refried beans went on the plate next to it, not mixed in, kept separate, so each bite could combine however the person at the table wanted. This was the dinner version of a working kitchen at its best. 2 simple things made correctly, placed side by side and trusted to be enough. Number 2. Huevos pochados en caldo de frijol negro. This is subsistence cooking that tastes like a chef made it. Black bean broth, the caldo left at the bottom of the pot after a day of simmering, was seasoned with epazote and a little chili morita and brought back to a slow simmer. Eggs were cracked directly into the dark aromatic broth and poached slowly until the whites set and the yolks were still liquid gold. Served in a deep bowl, the eggs arrived surrounded by broth that tasted like the whole bean and not just the bean water, crumbled queso fresco on top. A corn tortilla on the side. This dinner cost almost nothing and felt like someone had taken real care with it, because they had. The care was in not wasting the broth. That's where the flavor lived. Number 1. Huevos con frijoles negros y plátano macho frito. The greatest dinner triangle in Mexican cooking. Black beans, creamy and deep. Fried eggs, edges lacy, and crispy in hot oil, yolk still running. And a few rounds of plátano macho, ripe plantain, sliced and fried until the outside caramelized into something almost jammy and the inside went soft and sweet. All 3 on one plate, nothing touching, everything meant to be eaten together. The plantain cut the savory, the beans grounded the sweet, the egg connected everything. This was the dinner you ate when the week was long and the fridge was winding down, and it never once felt like giving up. It felt like the kitchen still had one great idea left, and it was right. At some point, egg dinners became the thing you ate when there was nothing else. Grandma never saw it that way. To her, an egg at dinner wasn't a compromise. It was a decision, a smart one, a fast one that fed the whole table without asking the budget for permission. She knew how to make a single carton of eggs into something different every night of the week, and none of it tasted like she was making do. It tasted like she knew exactly what she was doing. Because she did. These dishes are still here. The knowledge didn't disappear, it just got quiet. And this is the place where we bring it back. If one of these was on your table on a weeknight, tell us in the comments. Tell us the dish, tell us the smell, tell us who made it. That's the story this channel exists to keep alive.